Good evening, everyone. Today is September 28th, and this is the Olivet City Council meeting. Can we please take roll, please?
Councilmember Carl,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman,
Here.
Councilmember Springer,
Here.
Chairman Pro Tem Weil,
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
Item number 2, communications. Mayor, we have no written communications. Item number 3, city managers report, staff reports. Thank you. And I'm going to talk a little bit. There's a couple of things in each of the monthly reports that I'd like to kind of point out for folks. And just reminding everyone too, that these are on the website as part of the agenda. You can just go to each of them. The one thing I want to point out with the police department is their use of force reporting. I think there's a lot of questions about that and with use of force right now. And so I kind of want to talk about not necessarily the numbers so much, but what does that look like in the reporting. And this is for the calendar year 2020. What they look at here is the times when there was actually a use of force. And so what you're looking at is when are these occurring? What do demographics look like? What were the arrest factors that were? And so they're trying to get a picture of when there is a use of force. What is that? What does that look like? What are some of the characteristics of that, of those incidents? Then the next thing that you're going to see is this will tell you actually the officer. This is their DSN number, what the complaint number was, that date, and then actually what happened. And what I want to point out here is use of force. The HFFEK is hands, fists, elbows, kicks. And Dane, you can probably correct me on that. But it's using your body as force, right? It's not using a gun or something. And so how many times does an officer have to use is using their body? The next thing is the tasers. And here it's pointing your taser. Okay, that's different from using your taser. Then you have the OC spray, and then you have the firearm pointing, the firearm used. And what you can see here is, again, it doesn't tell you, everything, but it gives you a sense of what's going on. Are there people who are more apt to be using force? If that's true, what does that have in correlation from when do some of these things occur? And who are those occurring with? So they're collecting all this data that can really allow you to early on see if you may or may not have a problem. And it also tells you, this kind of tells you that that people aren't, our officers are not immediately unholstering their tasers, right? They're not, and you can have, there are different ways you can report these things. It kind of depends somewhat on your state and what you're turning back in. But I just think it's really important that people understand that this analysis is done and it's utilized by the command staff. And it's also, we're also, again, putting it out each year so that residents can see. And if they have any questions, they can come back and ask us. Okay. And again, you have a lot of information in this. And we try to make sure that it's not too much, because we don't really want to do a data dump, because that's not helpful. But we know people are interested in, hey, if there are 2 motor thefts in August, well, what happened here? And we give a little synopsis so that people have a sense of actually, what's going on, where are things happening, and that type of thing. The other thing I want to point out in this report, I hope I'm not making anybody watching sick, the Citizens Police Academy We have 3 Olivet residents in the academy this year, which I think is great. There are 7 departments. They're all listed here. And that's something they didn't have it last year because of COVID. So this is the first one I think that they've been back. And then there's obviously other information in here. One of the things not in here that I want to recognize is that Major Beth Andreski, you may recall 100 years ago, pre-pandemic, she was offered the opportunity, she was chosen to attend the National Academy for the FBI. And I think she's tried to go about 3 different times, but with the pandemic, it kept getting delayed, or they delayed it once, they delayed it another time, they canceled it. And so supposedly she'll be going to that, and she'll be leaving in October. And she'll be gone for 3 months, coming back right before Christmas. And so that's a real honor. We have a number of officers who've been to the academy, including Chief Wolf. And so it really is an honor to be chosen because it is a selective group. The Planning and Community Development Department, again, a couple of things, just to not to go in a lot of detail on here, but I think Carlos is doing a good job of not only letting us know what's going on with regard to the number of permits and the dollar values, those types of things. But he's also letting us know kind of what his staff is working on as we continue to professionalize those. And I say continue to, because we have been the various members of our building division. They have a lot of certifications that they need to uphold. And they also have a lot that they do kind of on their own. And David Fairgrieve in particular has been very active in a couple of those associations regarding code enforcement. And I think that shows a real commitment to the community. As well as Dawn Doty, our new, she's in the Chancellor's Certificate in Planning and Zoning. So we've got a lot of things going on here. I'm not sure what Carlos does. He's here now, sorry. His reports also will give you an update on what's going on in different projects. And one of the things that you'll know by reading this report is that there were non-residential permit review are continuing for 2 retaining walls at Olive Crossing. One along that detention basin, and the other is kind of along the rear lot of lot 4, which is where the multifamily will be. And so this kind of information allows our communications manager, Kiana Fleming, to kind of go in here and take things out, because we are really trying to keep the citizens up to date on and not be necessarily surprised when something happens. And then periodically, Carlos, Carlos Trejo, our director of planning and community development, will send our senior inspector, Dave Fairgrieve, to Heights, where he probably shouldn't be, to take photos of the developments going on. So that's actually a view from the top of the roof of the Oliver. You can see the arch right back there. Cool. Kind of cool. Yeah. We've not seen David for a few days now since taking that, but that's fine. And again, a lot of information then on what's going on with his commissions. Our Park and Recs department, again, they tend to have a lot of photos. Those are from Party in the Park. If you're not on the Olivet Facebook, on our Facebook page, I'd encourage you to be. We had about 120 photos that got uploaded from Party in the Park. Really cute. This is the work again of one of our trails that our volunteer Ed Kastner has been working on. And they had a couple of washouts here, and you can see kind of the work that they did to stabilize where that washout was. It's a ton of work. Ed is just doing he is retired from his full-time job, and he has just been doing an amazing amount of work on the various trails going through our parks. And one thing here is, you notice we've got a lot of events coming up. And she lists those here. You should be able to find those as well on our webpage, on the City of Olivet webpage, olivetmo.com. You will see that we have now 2 calendars. We have a main calendar, which tells you when all the meetings are. We have an events calendar that will show you when various events are happening. So you can make sure you're looking at both of those things. And this coming weekend, we have the yard sale, the 2-day yard sale. This is like the biggest event in all of it. Fire department, they have started up again their CPR classes, instructions. They worked with both Logo School and Emmanuel Lutheran, both here in the city, to train their staff on CPR and advanced CPR. And so we're kind of getting back into that. We're reminding people also of the services that the fire department provides, such as the car seat training and how to install a car seat. And for any grandparent out there, you'll know why you need to be instructed on it. They are crazy now. And again, they have a lot of their own statistics. The monthly financial report, you see that Darren Mann, our finance director, goes over it. One of the things that he may report on tonight, though, is he had visitors last week. The auditors were in, and so we'll hear their official report probably in November. But it was, again, I'm anticipating a really positive review. They had nothing but positive things to say about our finance department, both Darren's leadership and Tanya Welch as his assistant, or the accountant. So, and with that, I am happy to answer any other questions that you might have. I know we did have some questions on the Firestone development and the lack of a sidewalk on the west side, the north-south of along Dealman, and staff is working on that to kind of figure out how to fix that so that we do have safe means by which people can walk up and down Dealman when you go south of Olive. And with that, I think that is about all I have. Happy to answer any questions. Okay.
Item number 4, city council reports.
I attended the Park and Recreation meeting last week on Wednesday evening, September. I'm blanking. Come on, help me. September 22nd. And I think that Barb Sondag just covered 90% of my report, because a lot of the programs that she talked about and what's going on at Stacy are part of the Parks and Rec department. They do have 2 new personnel, people that joined the personnel team, and I can give a more detailed report next month. But it was a very good meeting, and we are having a special meeting tomorrow night to look at where we are on the timeline, and to talk about the playgrounds and look at pavilions that will be coming back to the city council, I believe at the workshop next week. Are there any questions?
The meeting is for the Park and Rec Board tomorrow night? Is that what it
Tomorrow
is?
night's for the park commission.
Park Commission.
It was supposed to be last night and we didn't have a quorum, so it's been moved till tomorrow night.
Gotcha.
And it's in preparation for Tuesday night's meeting.
Gotcha.
Greg, do you have anything? Please unmute yourself. We couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I had another thing up so I could read off of it, and I couldn't get to the mute button right away. I don't have much to report. Again, I did attend the September 23rd Planning and Community Development meeting for Councilperson Waldman, who was out of town. And Mr. Trejo, as always, has put a very good summary of the meeting in general. The one thing I want to note is 724 Cherry Tree Lane. It got approved with a pool and a deck in excess of the authorized. This is something that went through the Board of Adjustment, but I think we're obviously going to see it, because what it is that for those of you that are familiar with Cherry Tree and Harvest over there, there's lots of relatively small, and the issue was putting in a pool and not over using up too much green space to do it. There's a limit we have, and it's set in the zoning regulations. And this went through the Board of Adjustment, and it got a lot of questions there, because it just seems like these properties are too small for owners to do something with. That was kind of the opinion coming out of there. And so it went on to PCDC to be approved. But however, my guess is that we're going to see some activity here to change the ordinances somewhat from the planning department because of this particular house for smaller lots. So just making you aware of that, the unique feature of this meeting. So that's it.
Missy?
I have not attended anything other than lovely things for the last week. So I have nothing to report on the meeting other than I did attend Party in the Park. It was a great success. Always love to see it go to the end. I do have a question of my fellow council member who attended the Planning Community Design Commission for me. Is this, the look at is going to be the relationship of the floor area ratio of the property and what is on it, as well as the tendency of water runoff and flow?
Well, the idea of maintenance, it's not floor ratio as much as it is green space. I forget exactly how we frame it, but I think it's 10% is our limit on structures, anything that's going to take up green space.
Okay.
And that can put, when you're trying to put in a reasonable pool or something along those two streets, you kind of run, you run into that limit pretty easily. And so that was really the kind of the question there, the tension there. And so I think we're going to see maybe some revised for smaller lots that would allow maybe slightly larger percentage in order to fit a pool or something, reasonable on the site, and still maintain all the stormwater and all the, those kinds of things. So, and obviously the thing has not been flushed out, right? I mean, it's just, this was one house, it came through, it got approved. It wasn't notable other than why, how it got approved. So I just wanted to make us aware that this could be forthcoming. And I have no time to, none of this has a timetable or anything yet, so.
Missy, I don't know what it was, but your microphone sounded kind of muffled. So I don't know if you need to adjust it a little better or whatnot, because a few of us really didn't hear your question too well.
I don't know. I'm on a different iPad where I'm at, so I don't know whether I need to be talking louder.
That's probably a good thing to do.
Okay.
Thank
Then I just asked a little bit more on the information of asking whether that was water runoff issue, retention, or floor area ratio. And it was just a summary of where they're starting at from that approval of the exception at 724 Cherry Tree Lane.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have nothing to report. I have not attended any meetings since my last pension board meeting.
Okay, This evening, I attended a meeting with Marco Timpton from Ameren UE. And he talked about how we can help the city of Olivet to move forward as far as being able to address the changing in demand for electric vehicles and how we can make sure that buildings being built going forward are prepared for having electric vehicles. It was very interesting. In fact, I wouldn't mind putting that on our docket to talk about in future meetings. It was very interesting, very exciting. But that's all I have to report, and we can go forward from there.
Mr. Mayor, can I add one thing real quick? I just
Go ahead.
want to note that you and I both, the mayor and I both attended the police chief's prayer breakfast, which as always was a very moving and solemn occasion. And it was great again to be able to do that. So
Yeah, I second that.
that's all I had. Thanks.
Item number 5 is the monthly financial report for August 2020.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Darren Mann, and I'm the Finance Director for the city. And tonight we have in front of us our 2 months of our fiscal year for the ending in August 31st. Again, with just 2 months, it's a little hard to make any kind of trends or anything. Luckily, the news, I would say for 2 months is positive. Revenues about 60,000 above where we thought they would be. And then expenditures about 30,000 below. So that's a net favorable variance of around 90,000. And we can see in our dashboard there, right about where we'd expect to be, about 13-14% for the year. Or sorry, about 16% is where you'd expect to be on those sales taxes. And you see right about there. From there, we go down to that reserve policy compliance. We can see 50% of our total is the goal of our total expenditures for the year is the goal, and we're well above that at $3.2 million above where we thought, which is again good news. Sales tax collections, they have evened out there in August, a really good month. Again, with July being below expectations, so we weren't sure where we were going to be. The other major contributors here, property taxes and utility taxes, right about where we thought that we would be. Again, property taxes won't be collected till the end of the year. We'll do a little bit of work on that later tonight. Expenditures, again, nothing major to report, but the chart there, we can see August is where we're talking about with the orange blip right there. We get a little preview here of September. Not the best September we've ever had, but it will be the second best. So what it tells us is sales taxes are strong. The reason we see this little blip down right here is not because of a recess of collections, but more of a sharing. One of our highest sharing months that we've had in any of this chart at about 50-something%. So we're above the county by quite a bit in this month. That's something we'll keep paying attention to, but again, sales taxes are looking good. So with that, that's all that I have as far as my report goes. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer or do some research for them.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Please proceed.
Darren, man, sir, could you go back to that slide that is on the same page as what shows of our compliance? So on there, you say that taxes are zero except for the payment from St. Louis County for protection of Elmwood Park. Is that protection the fire department protection, or do we also provide police protection? And do we get paid for both? Thank you.
Sure. That payment there specifically is for a contract from long ago with Elmwood Park for fire protection, and that's a contractual obligation there. That's the only revenue we'll see in that property tax classification. The reason there's zeros there is we had the state tax commission had some work go through, finished up a lot of some work, we had a large back charges for many years back. And so we won't be receiving much for any property tax collections reported because they don't make us give the money back. It just shows a zero until we have enough to pay this back charge. But to answer the rest of the question, we don't provide police coverage necessarily, as in if you call 911 in Elmwood Park, just north of us there, a police officer from Olivet will not necessarily show up, if I understand right. But if you have your house is on fire or you have a medical emergency, the Olivet fire truck or ambulance or as necessary will show up. That's that arrangement.
I have a question for Mr. Mann. Darren, I know that this isn't the financial report that we do with our investment money, but I'm curious as to what your thinking is now. I mean, we saw the 10-year today at a pretty high
Yes,
yield. And
that's
I'm
something
wondering what you're
we're
thinking.
finally starting to pay attention to as we see something. And I'm wondering if, now is we see some of those later bonds kind of come up. We will talk about this next month because that is the time for the quarterly report. But there's never a bad time to get back into it. Yeah, what we're seeing is so 0.15 is the going rate for our ICS funds.
Wow.
And so it would have to be usually like 0.25 is about the rate what I would probably start looking at, and those would be at the 1 year.
Okay.
I
I mean,
again,
I know that's going to lag the 10-year treasury.
Mhm.
I know the lag, but I just kind of wondered what you're
sure.
thinking was
And
to-
so what the discussion or what we maybe would think about is what are things going to be doing next year? If that's inflation kind of gives way, then you'd go to like a 1 or a 2 year, get some yield, and then go about our way. A lot of our money in ICS right now is for the bond funds for the community center, which again, I think we'll probably, the plan is to need in the next year, 14 months. So that puts us on a pretty short time frame there.
Mhm.
So all open for discussion and we can.
Thank you.
Real quick, ICS means what again?
It's like money market.
It is the equivalent, it's the city of Olivet is not allowed to invest in money market by state statute. So somebody came along and invented something that's really just like it, but not, it's a mark to market. It's fully collateralized by $250,000 CDs. It's kind of an amazing. That's it.
I kind of thought that's what
I
it meant.
knew
just
she knew
wasn't
it, but
sure.
she was just trying to see if I was gonna get it. Yeah,
Thank you,
Wow.
yeah,
Mr.
insured
Mayor.
cash sweep. Yeah, it's a.
But what did she say that stood for? Because I didn't pick that up.
Insured cash sweep.
Insured cash suite.
Sweep.
Sweep.
Sweep. like
Sweep.
brown,
Yes.
because it
sweep.
sweeps the money into the account.
Yes.
Sweep.
It's a gangster fund. All right.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is hearing from citizens.
I have a handout. Can I just pass that out or?
I don't know. I'm not. Thank you. I'm trying to get one there. and see it.
Excuse my artwork and sorry for the folks online. My name's Sue Rich. I live at A927 Hilltop Manor Drive. And I'm here tonight to talk about safety on the streets. So there's a construction project going on Alice, as I'm sure you're well aware. I took the opportunity to draw a little picture. Twice last week, between 3 and 4 o'clock, I had the pleasure of driving through there. And to say that it is an accident looking to happen is an understatement. So what I tried to draw is the worst of the 2 incidents. If you look at the picture, you see Hilltop at the top. You see the gated lot where the city parks vehicles, et cetera, and the Public Works building. In between is Alice. As you can see, I drew the construction area, which is taking up not quite half of one lane. There was heavy equipment moving in and out. If you look across Price, you see 3 vehicles, a pickup truck, another pickup truck, and myself waiting to cross Alice, waiting to cross Price to get on Alice. There was a guy with a signal, a stop and slow signal, and there were 2 school buses coming up Alice. A guy in a pickup truck decided it was a really good idea to speed up behind us, swing out, make a sharp right turn. And it was a very close call, to say the least. What I'm asking, is there anything you can do to either make Alice a one-way traffic until this is done? Number 2, possibly highly encourage people in the industrial park not to use Alice to go to Hilltop, but rather go out on Price at the light, at least for the time being, or somehow encourage only local traffic. I watched carefully the 2 pickup trucks. They were both making a right onto Hilltop to go down to Olive. Another incident, I was walking, silly me, on Alice trying to get to the industrial park. And literally there was a car that swung out to avoid the construction into the incoming lane, and a car coming, get my direction right, coming west. And the car going west swung and nearly hit me. I had to jump off. Luckily, I was standing right in front of the gated area. I was able to jump in there. If that gate had not been open, I think it would have been a bad situation. And the guy looked at me like, hey, I'm in my lane. The guy's encroaching on me, and I'm just going to go anyway. It's not a good situation. I think the city's already set a precedent when they were working on Dealman and Old Bonham, trying to limit traffic, at least if there's only one lane, limit it in one direction. So I'm just asking you to consider that as a possibility or some other alternative. This isn't ending soon. Lastly, I've asked for this before as well. If there's any way to open up pedestrian access from Arrowhead Park to the industrial area without going down Alice. I don't know if there's any easement back there at all where you could cut at the end of one of the streets and get out to the industrial park and avoid the whole situation. That would also, I think, help. So thanks for your consideration. I appreciate it.
We don't have any easements on, because those are private streets. Yeah, I'll talk with Bruce. Bruce McGregor has been working with, this is the Missouri American Water work that's occurring there on Alice. And it's in the middle of the road, because that's where they're moving the mains, putting in the new main. We had, prior to this work, we talked about whether this needed to be a one-way, or it should be a one-way or not. But I can't remember the exact discussion that where it led to, because there are a number of factors you have to take into consideration. And so, but we can, we'll bring this up again with him on that, on whether it can be a one-way or not, if that would work. There is no other way for us to create a walk to that industrial park. Most of those roads that go through are private, that end prior to North Price. And that was actually some of the work that we had to do for doing the North Price road work. So that's a kind of a more recent, relatively recent knowledge. So that's why getting Alice done and getting that sidewalk on Alice is so important.
Item number 7 is bill number 2959, an ordinance fixing the annual rate of tax levy for 2021 on all property within the city of Olivet providing for the extension of said taxes on the books of the collector by the county clerk, and providing for the collection thereof. Second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a second reading, and I do believe we need a public hearing on this. Is that right, Paul? Tax rate setting.
We got one scheduled?
We do.
Mhm.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So well, I have just some a short memo there for us, but if I'll maybe wait till after we get to the public hearing. All right, in the name of being brief, I will only point to just a couple things. The tax rates are going down ever so slightly on rising valuations, which a lot of people probably got letters in the mail, special mail, that your assessments are above 15% as required by law. And if you didn't, probably still went up. So that means their tax rates go down. There is an inverse relationship between assessments and valuation, or sorry, assessment valuations and then those tax rates. Best illustrated probably by the chart we have. Let's see, I think it's page 6 of this, Barb. And what we look at there for right there is the top one is our residential appraisal, the values versus the tax rates. The one on the far right is almost down at the base of this right axis, which is 0.50. And you can see as the blue line goes up in the back, the green lines go down. And then likewise, if we look at our commercial, they tell a little bit of a different story over time. And that is because the blue lines in the back haven't went up in excess of inflation. And those are some of the stories that we talked about over the last several years. The only other thing I would point out there is that blue line on our bottom where the arrow points to, that is 63.7 million in valuation. That was the peak valuation in 2006. So we have not quite reached that, but are approaching it, thankfully, and hopefully with a lot of the work that's going on right now, that's been kind of the fruits of a lot of the labor of the last several years. We'll bring that back up to that 06 valuation peak. Some of the other things we look at here, if we go up just one page there, not to skip ahead too much, but that table there shows us the residential assessment increases at 9.8% and the commercial ones at 4.2 right there in the middle. And then also the new construction figures, which go into this calculation. If you're ever interested, you can read the paragraphs there from up above on the process itself. And then the final piece is where do we do versus our budgeting, which is a couple pages down from here. And we can see that our budgeting was right about where we thought. When the collection needed at 95, 96% across all these, the different funds that we collect for, which again, I guess to remind everybody, general fund, which goes into for general purposes and expenditures, there is a roughly quarter 0.25 per 100 that goes toward the pension fund, and then 0.540, which is the number promised to voters last June, is comes in, and that's for that debt service, which goes to repay the bonds that we have, which is the 2014 and 2020 general obligation bonds. So with that, I don't have much else. Again, in the spirit of keeping this brief, I'm more than happy to answer any questions or as we go through here, if anyone from the public does too. But that's it for setting our tax rates for this year.
Mayor, just to let people know that we do have for the public hearing record, so to speak, the finance director's memo, the notice of public hearing. And if anybody wants to take a look at all of those backup documents that we get from all of those other people who are involved in this process, I'm sure that Darren can put his fingers on them if anybody wants them. Other than that, we just need to ask formally if there is any public comment, then we can close the hearing.
Do we have any public comment at this time? Okay.
Mayor, I see none online also.
Okay, we are going to close the public hearing.
Thank you for including, Darren, the difference in the valuations. I know you would have anyway, but I specifically asked if we could have that last meeting. It's interesting to me how the valuation has increased. And while the commercial has been slight, I'm hoping that if I have an opportunity to look into it in another year or two, well, 2 years from now, depending on what kind of construction has come to fruition and is finished and is fully assessed and fully valued, that number is going to be substantially higher. So that's going to be pretty exciting, really exciting. Yeah. It's fine.
Oh, we need a motion to approve the bill
Oh,
as recommended. The
Mayor-
recommended is to approve the bill. as
Mayor,
written.
I move that we approve Bill number 2959, an ordinance affixing the annual rate of tax levy for the 2021 on all property within the city of Olivet, providing for the extension of said taxes on the books of the collector by the county clerk and providing for the collection thereof as presented.
Second.
All right, if we could pull the council then.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes,
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2959 becomes ordinance number 2732. Item number 8 is bill number 2960, an ordinance to approve a final subdivision plat titled Birdie Lane, first and second readings.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Carlos Trejo. I am the Director of Planning and Community Development with the City of Olivet. And tonight I present to you Bill 2960, which is the request for approval of the final subdivision plat for the 8-lot single-family residential subdivision to be known as Birdie Lane. As you know, this plat has gone through the subdivision review process as outlined under Chapter 405 in our land use regulations. Has been reviewed by the city's Planning and Community Design Commission for preliminary plat review. That is a process where the commission takes a look at the zoning code, other applicable chapters of the land use code to determine compliance with the city's regulations and ordinances. And that was found and approved in December 17, 2020. Thereafter, there was a couple of conditions that were placed that have been addressed. And a final plat was submitted to the city's Planning and Community Design Commission for recommendation on August 19, 2021. And this item is now being forwarded to the City Council for final approval. The final plat essentially is the legal instrument that is recorded at St. Louis County that establishes each individual lot. It's the legal descriptions, the lot descriptions, necessary easements, road right-of-ways, and notations in there. It has nothing to do with the individual houses or the topography. Those are taken care of through the preliminary plat process and the subdivision improvement plans. Again, this is the legal instrument that will be recorded in St. Louis County in there. Be glad to answer any specific questions. We do request that the council consider reading this for the second time in addition to today's first reading. As this was an item, we had a discussion regarding the street dedication. The plat has notes that the street would be public, but not until the road is completed and final inspections are conducted would it be followed with a roadway dedication for consideration by the city. Again, be glad to answer any specific questions.
Do we have
Mayor,
any
I don't mean to
questions?
be hustling anybody along. I just wanted to throw this out. If you want to go to a second reading right now, it'd be appropriate to have a motion to set aside ordinary rules and go to a second hearing. After we have a motion and a second, it would be appropriate to ask the public if there are any comments about either the second reading tonight or the ordinance in general.
So I pass me one more again.
Okay, first thing to do is we need a motion to set aside ordinary rules and have a second hearing.
Yes, I'd like to.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we set aside our ordinary rules and proceed with the second reading of bill number 25, is it 60? I can't see the screen.
2960.
Yeah, 2960.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And now it would be appropriate to ask if there is any public comment on either the second reading or the ordinance itself.
Do we have any kind of comment from the public on this second reading?
And Mayor, I will note that there is a representative for the developer online. I don't believe they have any questions.
Please
If
allow-
anyone online would have a question, if you could just raise your hand electronically. So there's the, okay. I do not see any hands up.
Can you identify who the? person
Mr.
is?
Jokers, he's there if there's any specific questions. He was the liaison or the applicant for the process through the commission and through permitting.
At this point, we need to vote on the motion to go to for a second reading. Then we need to have a second reading, and then we need to have a vote on the ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote, that we,
You already have a motion. You just
Oh.
need a roll call on the motion to set aside ordinary rules.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
yes,
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, and then I think you would, if the clerk could read it for a second time by title only.
An ordinance to approve a final subdivision plat titled Birdie Lane.
Now you just need the motion to approve and then you can have discussion.
Mayor, I move that we approve bill number 2960, an ordinance to approve final subdivision plat titled Birdie Lane.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, can we poll the council?
No,
Or do we need to?
please, I have a comment.
Okay, we have a comment.
I don't think it's been any secret ever that I have wanted a variety of housing inside the city of Olivet. And while I think the apartments that we're getting are a great start to that, not everybody wants to rent an apartment. Some people still want home ownership, but they don't want to live in a home anymore. They want a townhouse or some other thing like this. This Birdie Lane would have been the perfect opportunity to put townhomes in a setting like that, that would have been pretty secluded, and to provide the amenities that a quarter of our population, which is over the age of 50, could have certainly gravitated to. You know, I don't want to focus on the cost of these, but these are $1.3 million homes. And that isn't when you start to upgrade these homes. Once you start to ask for this upgrade and that upgrade and that upgrade, you can quickly escalate the price. I think they certainly could have fit more than 8 townhomes in there and provided the sort of housing stock that, for me personally, I've been asking for a very long time here. And while I know there's a couple projects that might get off the ground that might be able to do that for us, this project would have been the this would have been the perfect place for it. And I'm very disappointed. And this is not about you, Carlos. It has nothing to do with you. I'm disappointed that the residents who lived here for such a long time chose to do this instead of chose to think much more globally about this community. And it makes me disappointed, and it makes me sad. And for that reason, I will vote no. It is not because I have anything against single family homes, but I think there was a better use for this size property inside of our community to provide that that which I've asked for a long time. So that's me personally. I wanted to say that and put it on the record.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
If we can hold Councilman.
Councilmember Carl,
He either froze. He looks frozen.
okay, Councilmember Waldman,
Oh, no, he's not.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, I had a glitch on my internet. Did you call for me to vote?
yes, sir.
Okay, yes, I vote yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes,
Councilmember Springer,
No,
Chairman Weil,
Yes,
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2960 becomes ordinance number 2733.
I would like to add something also that I hope that the representative that's here tonight will take back to the builders. Sir,
That's not him.
I thought he was a representative.
He's virtually,
Oh.
attending virtually.
Virtual.
Mr. Clark's here on something else.
Okay, I'm
that's Mr.
sorry.
Clark. We all know Mr. Clark. He's been here forever.
Okay, So who is it that's here tonight? William Bowman?
No, Mr.
No.
Brian Jokerst.
Oh.
Brian Jokerst represents the developer.
Okay, so I was very saddened to see that they just plowed through the land. There was no, to prepare it for the street. There was no taking any time. Can you hear me? There's no time in taking caution to look at these lots that you're developing and save some of these magnificent trees. It is heartbreaking as a community that's one of the beauties of our community. And I want that noted on the record. Once again, that when people are submitting these things, that they just don't plow through our community and destroy it. The green space that was there, some of it could have been maintained. I mean, 100-year-old trees or longer are just gone. So it's very devastating.
Okay, item number 9 is bill number 2961. An ordinance amending ordinance number 2723 in reference to the adoption of a certain salary schedule. First reading.
Thank you. Basically, this is an adjustment to the salary schedule, but the reality is really changes more with names in that we would be adding communications manager / deputy city clerk versus city clerk, and then secretary. There's misspellings in here. I apologize. It's hard when I'm working with the PDF. I'll fix those for the second reading. To a secretary / deputy city clerk. We would be eliminating this administrative assistant position, and that's just essentially making all the secretaries and kind of getting that in the same order. So that's just the first reading tonight. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like a little bit more of a refresher on what the tasks would be for this secretary position. Would they be working within 3 different departments, 1 department under the task of city clerk? What would they be doing?
The person would be, this position would be working under me. Whether they might be doing tasks for another department, or they'll be doing tasks for me. And then with regard to the deputy city clerk, some of those things would be moved over as time goes on. Initially, we would be moving over the responsibility for the record keeping, or the record keeping with regard to the filing and the following up on requests, FOIA requests for information. We would also then be working with the person as training them on the election. But a number of these things, we wouldn't just be moving immediately because there are a lot of things in this job that occur once a year or twice a year. And so you really need to have somebody doing it, a couple good times to get that done. And so I don't know if that answers the question or if you'd want more information.
I will, if I have any further questions in the future, I'll follow up. Thank you much for that clarification.
Okay.
Item number 10 is resolution number 2021-213, a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with PKI for access and testing of 3 monitoring wells in Indian Meadows Park.
The memo explains kind of the history around this. In 2016, the city was approached by PKI and their environmental consultant, which is Burns and McDonnell, to install 2 monitoring wells in Indian Meadows. And this had to do with a possible contamination for the north and an overland. They were installing monitoring wells as they were trying to follow and see where the contamination might be going. They installed those wells. You had a 5-year agreement with regard to the installation, access, and testing. In 2017, they came back and asked to put in a 3rd well, again, with the ability to access and test. Over the 5 years, we're now at the renewal for the 2 wells that were in 2016. What we're recommending is that we put all 3 wells under the same agreement so that we're less apt to, forget one or let one slide. And also at this point, they're really all the same. It's not an installation agreement anymore. It's only an access and testing agreement. So that changes in here. We've had no issues with this. They always provide, as per the agreement, they provide notice for when they'd like to come. They provide reports afterwards. And at this point, there haven't been any findings of contamination at those wells. So this would be, this is a new agreement because it would incorporate the 2 contracts in one. It would also go from a 5-year to a 10-year. If there are any.
Mr. Mayor,
Pardon
Yes,
me?
I have some questions, sir.
proceed.
Religious curiosity and assurances. So how do we know that there's been no further additional contamination? What are we getting the documents that? If you could keep that other page down for me, I would really appreciate it.
Which one? Which page?
Not the resolution, the page before it.
Before it?
Super. So, so I want to know, what do we have that clearly identifies there's been no contamination or any further issues on there? And I don't know, Barb, if you know this or Carlos knows this, what is that business at 9979 Page Avenue?
The business that did the contamination is no longer at 9979, I believe, and I will have to go back to the first time we did this because that actually had the history of that property. I don't believe it is, it's functioning anymore as it had been when there was contamination.
Was it an automotive place?
Yes, that's what Darren is saying, was an
Yeah,
automotive
It was an
place,
automotive
yeah.
place. I remember that now. 'Cause I
Yeah.
remember the guy coming in and speaking to us.
Mhm.
We were down
We're
the
at the old
street.
building.
Yeah, we were down the old building and he came and told us, I mean, we asked him all these questions and I think that was what had happened. It was an automotive
Mhm.
place and it was some sort of a chemical that they, that got
Mhm.
spilled into the ground. I don't
Mhm.
remember like what kind of cancer causing chemical it was, but one of those kind of
Yeah.
chemicals.
Uh, And the concern is that it could travel, the groundwater contamination, that it could go, and their
Correct.
concern is that it would go to the river to Pear.
Right.
And so that's why
Right, right.
that's how they've chosen those sites. After they do their testing, we get reports.
Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion?
Please.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2021-213, a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with PKI for access and testing of 3 monitoring wells in Indian Meadows Park.
Second.
All right, if we could pull the council.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes.
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed. Item number 11 is resolution number 2021-214, a resolution authorizing the execution of deduct change order in the amount of $112,891 between the City of Olivet and Wright Construction for construction of the new community center.
I would like to acknowledge first. Sorry, I don't have my thing on. First of all, let me open up a different file here real quick. One that shows the edits. Today, I received an email that one of the proposed value engineering, the elimination of the CMU at a maintenance building, this $9,600 deduct is actually no longer a deduct. We would continue to eliminate that CMU at the maintenance building. However, the price of the maintenance building itself has increased, which so it takes away that deduct of the 9,600. We would, and so it's a little bit, I wanted to show it to you this way so that you could see we're taking it off of the value engineering deduct change order, but we would be making this change. It's just a $0 amount. And with that, then I'll go back up here to one. It does change. It changes that dollar amount. You take the $9,600 off. I do apologize if that came in, as I said, today. They just got some updated information from Wright Construction. Other than that, I'm happy to review if anyone has any questions on the listing of proposed changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have on that.
We have any questions?
I'm going to wait to hear if anyone else does, but I do.
I do not have questions.
I might have one. Yeah, let her ask her questions
ahead.
and then if I think anything else.
Please proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my fellow council members, peers, and city staff, I was very appreciative of some time that Ms. Sondag gave me to go over these documents in advance of this meeting. And at the end of that conversation, I came to terms with everything but one. And that amount is for $2,012. And it is for the removal of, replace the section of wood ceiling at the multi-purpose entry with, I don't know what.
With drywall. I apologize. This was, getting this to fit on the page was hard.
Yeah, with drywall, and forgive me, because I forgot to ask you what that follow-up was when we spoke yesterday. Out of everything that's here, I don't think that should go away. I think it's a pretty little shine to our design. And for $2,100 some odd dollars, I just don't think it's worth taking away that look. So that is the one and only thing that I still feel needs to be a part of our look and our design within our project. Thank you very much for that. I hope it can be addressed.
Can I comment on that? I think, Missy, I hear what you're saying, and I would ask, this is what I would ask, is that that everybody continues to work towards getting us where we need to be. And if that is something that doesn't have to get sacrificed, because ultimately we find that whatever it is, $2,100, then we can put it back. But as prices and you know this better than probably most of us, as prices continue to escalate, it becomes a race to see how fast we can put everything in place before the next price increase happens. And so unfortunately, that might have to be sacrificed. My question is, could we ever go back and put it back if we so desired? If all of a sudden we won Powerball and we found ourselves with an extra $2,000, could we go back and put it back? And that's, I like to think about it like that, if we could, rather than, kind of drawing a line in the sand. Either could we put it back, or let's see where we can keep going and where we can find that extra $2,000. That's just my 2 cents.
Let me ask that question real quick.
See, I understand where we have remove wood ceiling over the esports, okay, but this particular wood actually gives that part of the room character, and we're using that hopefully to rent and everything. So, I know what we're saying, but at the same time, we don't have 2,000 to scrape up, or at this point, is what you're saying?
Well, I
It's
think
all
you're
or
gonna
nothing.
Aren't you continuing to do value engineering?
Yeah, we're continuing to look at things. We have park projects
Mhm.
coming up. We haven't gotten through the more questionable part of a building project, which is the building of the foundation and compaction of the soil and those types of things. Because as the further you move into the project, the more you know how well you're doing with your contingency.
I guess my other question is, at what point does this become a no-go? Do they have to do certain construction on the ceiling that would be able to allow that wood to go in there? Is it a certain type of beams or reinforcements or whatever it is? Or could we come down to, much further down the road and realize that our contingency gets pulled back a lot, or this happens a lot, and and holy cow, we found an extra $2,000.
I would say that if this gives you angst, I would just remove it from the deduct change order. And just keep it in there.
So let me ask the following question, because look, I'm okay with that. I mean, I've had this conversation with you that the whole thing is less than 1% of the whole project. But yes, I agree with you, Ruth. Yes, I've been saying it for a long time, seeing it, as that's what my spouse does for a living, is cost is going up on things. And who knows what next engineer valuing calculation redo we're going to have to be looking at. I totally get that. Um, I guess I could compromise if I could be told, yes, this can go in at a future time. But I would almost be ready and willing to look at, as the city manager has indicated to me, some of the things that are not internal, that are rather external. So, to me, this was my angst out of the entire list. I came back with, okay, I get it, okay. But we only do this once. And we gave the well and the pop, and you have some great designs and working on our city center roof. I just, it's just one of those gut things for me that this is minimal money, but at the same time, I don't know what they'll come back with, but I'd rather do something on the outside rather than the inside for $2,000. And I'm not the expert. I am just the dreamer.
So if I'm understanding what you were saying, Ruth, it's easier to leave it in and take it out if necessary, as opposed to take it out and then try to put it back in.
No, I think that it's easier to take it out now and say, if we find the money, put it back in. I'm assuming there is a point at which you can't do that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't want to slow it down.
well, it wouldn't be a slowdown. It would simply be a change order that would come about.
Right.
The other thing is, though, is that replacing that piece of wood may no longer cost $2,000 when we do it. It could cost $2,500 when we do it.
Right. I mean, those wood sections are the same, replace, they're the ones that are over there.
The ones that run across like that. Yeah, yeah,
That run
yeah.
across.
Yeah,
Are they're like beams, right?
Right.
yeah, yeah. But they're not,
I'm just not sure what they're put on because if, are they put on a drywall already or?
I would imagine that
what
they have
else
to
is
be
something that's on
secured
there?
either through some sort of joists or,
Yeah, some kind of ability to mount it on there and keep it firm right behind the drywall. Yeah.
I suggest that you leave it in for tonight.
sure.
And then I can get the answers to some of the questions and we can always bring it back as another change order.
That's fine with me.
That is fine. I'm good with that. So how does that change
That
the,
changes the amount by 2,000, lowers it by $2,012, which would make it approximately what, Darren?
$2,012?
I don't have a spreadsheet.
Hold on. $110,879. Is that correct?
No, we're at 122,000. It would be one.
No, we're at 112,000.
My figure here says 122, 491.00.
Yeah, but that's with, if you can look at the screen, Missy, that's without the,
Oh, I am sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking at my paper.
that's
I'm
okay. That's all right. This was, like I said, this was a late change and,
Yeah.
891
It's
minus-
$110,879.
Yep. 110,879.
I did that old school too.
You did.
I borrowed and put in the column. Mhm, old
Wow.
school. I know.
Wow, That's the skill nowadays.
That
especially with a bunch of
borrowing
zeros.
is scary.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
borrowed.
I just got a response too from Katie Ahold, our project manager. It could be done with, you would probably have to reconfigure the lighting and the sprinkler head. So I'd say put it in now if it's
Yeah.
desired.
Okay. That's a lot. That becomes more than $2,000. Just to
Yeah, I would like to leave it if possible.
Okay.
I second that.
All right. Did we have a motion? We didn't have a motion yet, right?
Never had a motion.
Okay, so now.
But the
it's
mayor
going to
just seconded
be-
something.
But was it seconded? Because we were still looking.
No, there was no motion. The mayor was just simply saying. he agreed.
Yes, that was just colorful metaphors. So,
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-214, a resolution authorizing the execution of a deduct change order in the amount of $110,879 between the city of Olivet and Wright Construction for construction of the new community center.
we'll have a
Second,
All right, can we please poll the council?
Councilmember Carl,
yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes, and thank you.
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed. Item number 12 is hearing from citizens, part 2.
Do we have any citizens out there that would like to make a statement? Be it online or in person?
Got them upstairs, but they're not interested.
You can see her face.
Item number 13 is review and approval of minutes.
I saw no changes.
I'd like to make a motion I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the council meeting on September 14th, 2021, and the special meeting on September 24th, 2021.
Second,
Can we please poll the council?
Councilmember Carl,
yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
Yes,
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed. Item number 14 is the city attorney's report.
Mayor, I have no report, but I would ask for a closed session for attorney-client communications and a discussion on litigation, as well as a discussion on a contract that is being negotiated. And that would be 610-021.1 and 12.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor, I move move to closed session per the request of the city attorney.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Carl,
Yes.
Councilmember Waldman,
yes.
Councilmember Springer,
Yes.
Chairman Weil,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Mr. Mayor. Did we pause? No, we're still recording.
Nope.
But we
Not
have to have
yet.
an announcement on
On the vote.
the vote.
We've.
You want me to take care of it, Mayor?
Yeah. Yeah, so city council has already voted to come back into regular session. And we are now in regular session, and what do we need to do?
Well, the mayor or the city
need-
attorney would like to give a report.
Yes,
from the
please
closed
give your
session.
report, sir.
All right, for the public, the council did take one vote this evening to approve a settlement agreement that does not result in any liability or payments by the city. Unfortunately, we can't discuss it in further detail at this time because it is yet to be executed by the other parties to the case. The settlement agreement will be fully disclosed on its completed execution. That's it, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, what do I want to do? I want us to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening. And go Cardinals.